Hello everyone, I'm Max and you join me for a new channel, Out of Spec Guides, and this is a super exciting opportunity because we're launching a channel for you, the average buyer looking for an EV. And reviews is great. If you're familiar with that channel, you know that we're going super in depth there. This channel is going to give you kind of a tutorial on, well, which cars to buy. So we're actually going to have an email in the description. Send emails to us if you have a dilemma. You don't know what to buy. Let's say you have a certain budget, you have a few options. We're going to help you out. That's the kind of content we want to do. We also want to give how-tos about public charging and other things like that because it's not nearly as intuitive, I think a lot of you might know, as it should be. So we're hoping to help explain that and more. But what are these two cars behind me? Well, this is a 2022 Mercedes AMG EQS. And this, if you watch Out of Spec, you'll be familiar with as Kyle's Model S Plaid. They're both performance luxury barges. And we're gonna talk about which kind of buyer both of these are ideal for, compare them, cons and pros of both. So let's get right into that.
Max, how's it going, sir?
Going well, Kyle.
Congrats on the new channel.
I know, I'm so happy. I don't even know what the graphics look like yet. Viewers will see them, but I'm just so excited. I think it's an awesome opportunity for those of us who don't nerd level 9,000 every day to find out which EV to buy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we really found a gap in the market where we do, I think, a pretty good job of reviewing electric cars, getting into how they charge, how far they go, and of course the driving dynamics. But what we don't do a very good job of, or at least up to this point haven't, is helping the end user make that purchase decision. Should you go for a Bolt or a Leaf or a used XYZ? We want to hear from you guys. We want your questions through email, and we'll have a link in the description, of course, for that. And let's hear what you're in the market for. Tesla, for example, just slashed prices. I think that's going to impact the industry massively.
Yeah, so we're going to have videos on all kinds of topics like that as news comes out. Stay tuned to reviews if you do want that in-depth, full-length coverage. That's not going anywhere. But the point of this new channel, like Kyle said, is to kind of give basically the basics of buying, the priorities you should have, or the priorities that you can compare between different cars. So here we are situated with these two very fast, very luxurious sedans, yet they have very different characters. So I want to talk about several different categories in this video. We'll start with the most obvious, styling. Now, this is subjective, but I think a lot of people on the internet are probably not huge fans of EQS styling. The AMG version doesn't change this much from the EQS 580 you might be familiar with. Basically, this is a S-Class that they have just aerodynamically sculpted the crap out of. It is a, what, 0.2, I think 0.21, a very low coefficient of drag. You could argue it almost looks like a whale, sort of bloated. It's a slippery shape, and we'll talk about efficiency later, but overall in terms of styling, you can tell it's a Mercedes, you can tell it's luxury, it's got this cool light bar up front. Kyle thinks it sort of looks like a unibrow.
I think it's embarrassing to drive this car.
So you don't like at all how you feel driving in it?
You know, the goal of this channel is like, should you buy XYZ? And the answer is, should you buy this car or that car is not so simple. And, for example, I bought that car.
Yeah.
And Tesla's since very much lowered their prices, so I got screwed. But that car and this car's MSRP are within about $5,000 of each other. This is $157. I paid just over $150 for that.
And that's what you paid, but right now this is, I think, $115 for a base model.
Yeah, crazy. Don't remind me.
So, but you do have a good spec of Plaid. It's been, let's just say, track mode tested.
Right.
It's got the brake upgrade, it's got wheels and stuff. So one of the things that I also want to talk about is the opportunities you have with both cars. Let's say you're a car nerd or an EV nerd, you want to upgrade your brakes or all your components. Teslas, everyone knows what they are. There's a huge ecosystem of parts companies and people who provide upgrades that you can get aftermarket. This is a luxury Mercedes for all the good and bad that entails. So out of the factory, you're getting a really well put together car. You're getting a really luxurious ride, super quiet. You get your choice of OE components from Mercedes dealers, but you also have to deal with Mercedes dealers. So
right, well, these are all the things we're going to get into in this video, but image, I think, is where you were intending to start before I sidetracked you.
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. But image-wise, so I'll leave the subjectivities to you as the viewer, but basically EQS is giving you this flashy Mercedes image with all of the lights, with its identity, with its very unique aerodynamic profile.
Yeah, these crazy wheels right here.
This one is spec'd with the upgraded wheels and upgraded front
Actually,
brakes.
these are base brakes for the or base wheels for the AMG.
Okay, so
you can get bigger wheels, multi-spoke wheels.
That's insane.
Yeah, so this is the entry-level wheel package for this car. But you know, from an image standpoint, the way I think we should equate it is if you roll up to a hotel, you know, and they're going to valet your car.
Yeah.
Are they parking this up front or the Model S up front? And honestly, I think this is the cooler car. It's at least the more unique car, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, people of course will see the Mercedes badge, but also just the profile of it is so unique. You have these lovely little details like your washer fluid being in here.
I wouldn't call that lovely. That just shows they don't want you opening the front hood.
It is a detail, anyhow.
Yes, it is, a detail.
I do honestly really like the upgraded AMG brakes, the way they look on this. Only the front one's super huge if you look at it over there. But yeah, this, I agree with Kyle, this is a very imposing profile. Maybe it's almost like a sheep in wolf's clothing in terms of performance, which we'll get into later, but it does look, you know, imposing in a way. And then it's got, you know, like the Model S, it has these aerodynamic door handles that pop out.
Which you
I
just
locked it.
And
So
it makes these crazy noises on the outside of the car.
BMW fans will also be familiar with their own profile, but Mercedes loves lights and noises. I think we're gonna find out in this video. Okay.
So push in the middle of the handle.
Oh,
Yes, really hard.
that doesn't feel right.
There is something about the, so I think before we even get into the nuances, whenever we compare a Tesla to a CCS electric car, there's a lot of people who can only choose the Tesla.
Yeah.
Because they have to travel.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't think either you or I are comfortable recommending CCS cars for long distance travel.
No, and if you've looked at the reviews channel, you probably will be familiar with why that is. Now, Mercedes does have a partnership with ChargePoint and this big program where they're going to spend $1 billion over the next, I think, 7 years to build out 400 stations with up to 2,500 chargers.
But it's years away.
It's years away. It hasn't happened.
You got it. The people are buying cars now. They can't wait. They can't. Oh, sorry, I can't make it to the family vacation. I got to wait for Mercedes to build their charging network. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's wild. Also, I love how this car is just doing it. I swear, I'm not pressing any buttons in my pocket. It's just doing a dance as I guess, enter and leave the proximity
Yeah, the
zone.
Model S will do the same with the pop-out door handles.
Yeah.
And you know, so really just going into it with the context. If you need to go places, you cannot consider the EQS. It's not a knock against the car. The
Yeah.
car's a really nice car.
It has lots of range too.
It's got a big ass battery.
Yeah.
It just doesn't use superchargers. So if you charge at home, both of them can go wherever you need to go. That's when it really becomes a real comparison between the two.
Another thing I want to mention on a Tesla in terms of range and where you can go is that, yes, you can use Tesla superchargers. Those are great. Those are reliable. You can also use CHAdeMO and CCS with Tesla's native adapter. That's not the right word.
Yeah.
They're OE adapters you can order from their site. So that's kind of the best of all worlds. You could charge that car anywhere. This car, you're stuck with CCS for better or worse.
So I think a lot of people shopping for a, you know, this Mercedes right here has specs 150 grand. This is probably 125 with the options that it has on it.
Yeah.
You're definitely spending an upcharge for the Mercedes. What are you getting for that upcharge? Because right now it sounds like you're actually losing the ease of travel.
Yeah, you're losing ease of travel, and then I don't have to get too nerdy about the numbers to tell you that you're also losing a lot of performance. That is obviously tri-motor beast, 1020 horsepower, 2 second plus 0 to 60 without rollout. 0 to 60 here I think is 3.8 seconds.
Yes, yes.
On the Mercedes, which is fast, but more almost Model 3 territory.
I mean, it's like a little bit more than a Model 3 dual motor, but not quite a Model 3 performance. But
Yeah.
that's not where the money is going in the Mercedes. You know,
No.
the Plaid is, in my impression, you buy, I think, the best drivetrain on the market, or one of.
Yeah.
And then they slap kind of a tin can on it. It's very creaky. It's not very comfortable. Compared to this, I think is a much better daily driving experience.
Yeah, you are kind of paying for everything, right? The chassis, the suspension tuning is, you could argue, Mercedes S-Class level. Now, maybe they don't put quite as much attention to detail as the big flagship Mongo S-Class, but I do think this is a really well put together car. You also get classic, German technology, like these digital headlamps, which if US regulations change, maybe you'll be able to use.
And they're amazing. When you hit unlock on the car, you get this AMG projection that comes out from it, or this raindrop thing. It plays a movie basically out of the headlights onto your surface. I mean, those little details, the stuff you and I appreciate as car enthusiasts, and I think a lot of people shopping for EQS that are used to the bleeding edge of technology and, sort of features in the car. There's only one choice here, and it's this car right here.
And then love it or hate it, we'll look at the interior in a second, the hyper screen, right? So maybe I should open the door and kind
let's
of
see
show
the inside of these things.
Because I think a lot of what you're paying for, obviously you have the Mercedes badge, but in terms of the technology, a lot of it's on the inside here. So you can see this car is outfitted with the supposedly 34-inch hyperscreen, which is really just 3 screens.
That's the crazy part, is they call it a hyperscreen, but there's 1, 2,
you can very
3,
clearly see the rectangles of each screen.
And that was always the crazy thing to me. The Germans are like so impressed with this piece of glass in this car, which has a crash structure built into the glass.
Yes.
I mean, it's insane what they've done. They have breakaway stuff, crazy engineering, very hot thermals to basically form the glass that way for automotive use. But for what benefit? Because you can option the base version of the EQS, the 450 Plus, with the standard screen that I actually prefer.
Yeah, you could argue that this hyper screen is almost distracting for you and the passenger. It's just a lot of screens going on. You do get I love the Mercedes heads-up display. So you get those kind of cool built-in quirks, but you also have to use MBUX to, get native navigation prompts, let's say. Now, unlike the Tesla, this car does have CarPlay. So let's say you're one of those people for whom that's a deal breaker. Well, you need CarPlay, you have to get the Mercedes, you can't get the Tesla.
So can I hit us just very briefly with the EV specs for everyone? Because a lot of them are really interesting. So let's start first with the Model S. Model S has a lot of range on paper, but we all know Tesla runs the 5-cycle EPA, and it's a little bit artificial. Basically, in the Tesla, you'll never be able to hit the range that they say on the box. It's been that way for years. In the EQS, I actually think you'll exceed the range they claim on this car, which is very interesting. And I've done not the AMG range test yet, but on the other versions of the EQS, just go and go and go, mid 300-mile range. It's more than enough. From a charging perspective, the EQS will only charge at about 200 kilowatts. The Model S will charge at 250 kilowatts, and maybe even more going into the future. So in terms of speed of charging, Model S has it. In terms of ease of charging, Model S has it. In terms of motor specs, power output, significantly more power in that car, significantly more everything on paper from a performance standpoint than the AMG EQS. What you really start getting into the differences, and where I think the EQS builds its value, is in the intangibles. Allegedly sitting at 155 miles an hour in the EQS is dead silent, dead straight, really built like a German missile. The Plaid, while it certainly can get there quicker than this car, is loud. It's a little bit not so planted and needs some modifications for really all-day high-speed cruising from a, I would say, stability standpoint. So if you live in Germany and you're going to do big distances at high speed, EQS is great because they actually have a great charging network, unlike here. And you can tell the car's just optimized for that market.
It's an Autobahn cruiser. It's unashamedly, that's what it is. And it's really good at that. And I would argue that some of it is intangibles you're paying for, like obviously the really low NVH, the luxurious feel inside, but also getting inside, you'll immediately notice things like the seatbelts tightening, and also tightening when you do a launch control in this car. This car is just, in my opinion, the epitome of presentation, whether or not you like that. It is very in your face. There's lights, there's sounds that basically accompany everything. It's a very, almost overwhelming experience for someone like me who prefers more of a minimalist style. And that's where I would personally lean with something like the Tesla, but maybe you want that pizzazz. Maybe you want to feel like getting in your car and driving it as an occasion. In that case, the AMG, or the Mercedes in this case, I think wins that hands down.
So let's talk space. What do we have? 2 hatchbacks. Can we see inside?
Sure. So I'm going to open the trunk on the EQS. It's actually, I was surprised by how deep in this goes.
Huge, massive space. Rear seats fold flat, of course. Really wonderful space. Let's take a look at the Model S over here. Because that has always been sort of the magic of Model S's. You can kind of put everything in this car. It was Tesla's original model.
Yeah, also, did you just notice that like the tailgate on yours opening is so much less smooth than the Mercedes? That's such a classic German detail.
It just feels like almost the tailgate weighs about 5 times more than this car. Because
everything on that car probably weighs 5 times more.
Yes.
But the Tesla, you know, you're not skimping out on space, but
I think EQS is bigger.
EQS is bigger, I feel like, in this dimension,
Yeah.
but the Tesla also has this, lets you get wider here.
Ah, good point. Yep.
And then we should talk about frunks, because that's a funny situation on the Mercedes.
Yeah, what's going on in the front trunk over here?
Yeah, so let's just start with your car. I think people will be familiar with that.
Sure, let me grab my app, because the Tesla app is wonderful and everything's done through there. So I'll show everyone how this works.
Yep.
I'm gonna, first of all, you can put all of your Teslas in here. So I'm gonna find this one.
How many? Do you have like 20 in there?
I don't know. And then I'm gonna click, boom, open, instant. So go for it, Max, pop her open.
Alrighty.
Oh, hold on, there
try
we go.
again.
It sticks. You have to pull up on it while you hit the button.
All
Because
right.
build quality.
Yeah, you know, it's an American car. Like Kyle was saying, you really are paying for the drivetrain here. Not to say everything else is crappy, but it's not Mercedes build quality, I would argue.
Yeah,
now,
totally agree.
Tesla has shrunk their frunk over the years, right? As they've increased the motors, done more, you know, electronics. This is, you know, nowadays it's better than, let's say, the EGMP vehicles.
Yeah,
like
but
the
you can
Hyundai
tell
stuff.
I never use it.
But yeah, like you don't have anything stored in here. You honestly, I would struggle to fit some of my carry-ons in here.
I don't really see the benefit of having a front trunk. It sounds great, and some people love it, but I just would much rather just throw it in the back seat or the rear trunk.
Yeah.
But it definitely is nice to have the option, which you don't have on this car.
Yeah, now I wish we could open the front of this car, but we'd have to be authorized Mercedes technicians, which we're not, so we're not allowed to.
Well, we're still going to open it, but
we're
not
still
for this video.
Yeah, we'll show you a way to open it because it's possible, but that's where you get into the funny situation with the washer fluid, because you might ask, right, normally it's under the hood in most cars. You fill it up here, and you also get a random 4MATIC badge. I don't know why they have to...
4MATIC Plus, actually, because
Yes.
everything in German stuff has to be a plus.
Yes.
Or a Pro.
Or Tronic or something.
Yes.
Yeah, all the suffixes. But 4MATIC Plus is here, and I don't even know how to open
Oh,
this.
just push in it on the back side of it. Nope, the other way. Yep.
Okay, and there is an small actuator, pops out. That's a really, you're gonna have to...
You just pour it right in there.
Yeah, but I feel like you need a delicate pour. Some cars like have this really like wide basin.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is like, you need to be precise when you put in your washer fluid.
Yeah, but yeah, sure.
Anyhow, that's a small
I don't
quirk
think people are making their buying decision
on washer fluid.
pouring.
But we should talk, I feel like, about door handles, because everyone seems to talk about that. For years they talked about with Tesla. Now having driven these both for several days, would you say the door handles popping out, that
They're
experience?
both really annoying.
Yeah.
And honestly, Tesla does a better job, but we've seen them break many times, not
Yeah.
on this particular car, but my dad also owns a Model S, and he's had 3 door handle replacements on his.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Tesla service is great. We'll get into that in a little bit, in our experience at least.
Yeah.
And these Mercedes door handles are probably the least premium part of the whole car. You feel like this very big resistance when you pull against them, and it just is like so not great.
Yeah.
And the door doesn't have traditional notches in it. So you're constantly fighting the little electric motor that's in there to open or close it, and then the door becomes a freewheel. So you push really hard to open it, and then it flies away from you.
I forget, I think it was the Porsche Panamera, or there was some luxury ICE sedan that actually had like infinitely
Yeah, a lot of cars did. Every
doors-
Audi,
yeah,
Porsche stuff
but they
had
did
it.
that in an analog fashion. Like this is, yeah, the motor has to actuate every time you change position.
And you'll hear it, zzz, zzz, and like that's something that can break. I don't know if I would want to own the Mercedes out of warranty.
This is a lease machine.
It's a lease machine. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So Max, just because we're already at 17 minutes into the video,
Yeah.
should we get into the purchasing experience of both cars? Because I feel like a lot of people don't, or I should say, value the buying experience as a reason as to why they should or shouldn't buy a car.
Yeah, I think that's honestly a really fair point, because it's twofold. We'll split it up into 2 parts, but there's buying the car initially, and then there's the service life and getting all of your work done on the car. So with Mercedes, it is a traditional dealer network. And maybe you love your local Mercedes dealer, you've bought S-Classes from them before, you maybe have a G-Wagon from them, I don't know. Like, let's say you love your Mercedes dealer, buying this car through them is gonna be that process. Let's say you don't like dealers, or this is your first time buying a Mercedes, you might have...
Yeah, good luck.
You might have a heck of a time, because this has an AMG badge, which, you know, means more money.
And like more money on top of what the window sticker says too in many cases.
Now, we are of course going into a different kind of economy, but not long ago, I think EQS 580s were going for like almost 100 grand over sticker at some dealers. And that was the 580, which isn't even the AMG EQS.
Right,
So
insane.
Huge markups, and of course, just lack of transparency in general. It's not like Tesla where, right, like when you bought your car, you just went to Tesla's site, you click,
I was drunk when I bought it, and I just like in 30 seconds, I just bought a
and you
Plaid.
probably had like 3 options to choose from.
Yep.
And then just
color, wheels, do you want full self-driving?
And you can use like Apple Pay or pay whatever.
Yeah,
like,
Apple Pay for the deposit.
Yeah, cryptocurrency until recently. But yeah, the Mercedes, not at all like that. I guess you can order it and have it fulfilled through a dealer, but ultimately you are going to work through a dealer. And then we have to talk about service, because we just showed stuff like the door actuators, right? There's this myth with EVs that like you never need to maintain them, which just isn't true.
Totally
right?
agree.
I mean, there's also the mechanical parts of a car like tires and other things you want to get replaced. And let's say you want the original manufacturer experience, you're gonna be going through Mercedes. And that means you're gonna have to, you know, book a reservation through, I haven't owned a Mercedes now, a recent one, but their app, you know, or
it's so annoying because I have
your
the Sprinter,
right?
And it's a 6-month wait to get that in just for an oil change. Now, granted, this car doesn't need oil changes, but it is going to need some warranty work, some adjustments here or there. Just this car, it's a totally gone through press car. The seats squeaking and rattling.
Yeah.
I would have to bring it in for that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wait months to get my car serviced.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Mercedes dealers also, like, you know, the EQS is going to be a new kind of, right, these EVA vehicles are a new experience for them. So servicing is going to be, you're basically almost a beta tester for service, I feel like.
It's scary, honestly. And then, you know, with Teslas, they just have it down. You know, Tesla has a bad reputation for service over the years, but again, we can only speak from our own experiences. And both my dad on the East Coast and myself here in Colorado, you know, I own 2 Teslas. I can schedule something on the app. Usually within a 5-day period of time, the car is there, or they come to the house.
Yeah.
And it's fixed within a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, they've just, you know, several years ago, people had complaints about Tesla depending on where you lived, because they do have to get to you, or you would go to one of their centers. But yeah, they've gotten that down really well.
They've built out a huge network.
Yeah.
They have mobile techs, even in Alaska, servicing Teslas. Wow. And it's gotten so good, and the cars are so good at self-diagnosing themselves that it just feels like I feel very confident owning a Tesla out of warranty, which I do my Model 3. I know they're not going to jip me on a price. I needed a windshield on the Model 3, for example. Safelite wanted $2,400. Tesla themselves, $900 installed.
Wow.
So it's like pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla will take care of you. And also, we have to mention that, let's say you're more of a driving enthusiast, you want to customize your car, add on parts. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but so much more of an ecosystem for Tesla, where you can just, you know, you can now get an official round steering wheel, but let's say you wanted to get one previously, I think people were making those, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's aftermarket solutions. And, you know, the thing is, these two are performance cars. And so they're a performance-minded buyer is going to go for them. I actually recommend the based EQS for most people. There's no reason to really step up to the AMG unless you just want the badge, or you really, really want the high-speed cruising ability, because I believe the top speed of the other one's 130. This is 155. It's badged as the AMG 53 in Europe. Here we just call it the AMG, so it's not the full top spec version that I think will probably come down the line for this car. Whereas the Plaid is just insane, balls to the wall, 1,000 horsepower. And so, you know, from a performance standpoint, the AMG is a little bit nicer balanced at speed, but for back road blasting, Tesla has track mode. The modifications that I've at least done to my car are, I would say, very inexpensive. The wheel tire package and brakes. You know, you have to upgrade the brakes on the Plaid. This comes with ceramics. Tesla can sell you ceramics for 20 grand. I think it's not worth it. I would go aftermarket. But like the Plaid's way faster in all areas and way more fun to drive.
Yeah, so just a better performance car to start with that you can refine further through the third-party market, which you kind of get what you get.
We're not going to see these things go into tuner shops or anything because everyone's going to lease them.
Yeah, this is a lease machine. And things like the brakes, there are some advantages where, you get it through Mercedes. I think it's only $6,000.
Well, they're only doing the fronts as ceramics.
Only front ceramics, so I guess they save half the cost. But yeah, so everything is sort of through Mercedes. And that, take it as you will. So that is kind of the service and just life experience of these cars.
Yeah, life experience is going to be way better with Tesla. You get an incredible app that you can precondition instantly. Mercedes you can do some of this stuff with, but the Tesla app is almost half the reason to have the car because you can send destinations right there. You can do the same with Mercedes, but again, it's everything you can do with the Tesla. It's clunkier to do it here.
Tesla also has a proven track record of this car theoretically can get over-the-air updates, but Tesla does that all the time. They've been doing it for a decade. You get new features in your car. Sometimes they move the climate control, but also they add new stuff.
It's pro and con. I think, the EQS is really for the traditional person, the one who's coming out of S-Class, the one who's just like, you get the AMG because you want the best one. It's not because you actually want to go fast. And this car fits that need perfectly.
Yeah, one more thing I think we should touch on is depreciation too, because like an S-Class or like a traditional Mercedes, this thing is probably going to depreciate pretty steeply.
Yeah, I think, well, in the case for my Model S, the same actually.
Yeah, which is, of course, every market is unpredictable, but I do think there has to be some kind of floor on especially Model S Plaid.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a $40,000 car in a couple of years.
Yeah, which at that moment, let's assume you can maintain it, that might be awesome. The Model S Plaid, has the reputation as being currently the fastest production car in the world. I don't realistically see it depreciating that much more.
I actually agree. I think the Plaid's always going to have a higher floor than the EQS will. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, there's just a lot more Tesla fans out there. That car's known to be a thing. The EQS is old school.
Yeah.
And but I will say the Mercedes guys did a lot of work for the daily driving. So if we break it down into categories, from an image standpoint, the Model S, you're going to look like a Tesla lover. You're going to look like you're driving a Model 3. No one's going to know it's anything special, but the car looks better. However, the EQS is going to give you that exclusivity look. It's going to be the people in the know will be like, oh, that dude definitely just avoided buying a Tesla to prove a point or to drive something more luxurious and went for the EQS. And I think that says a lot about your type of person. And I actually, if I had to talk to two owners right at a car show, I'm coming over here to talk to the EQS guy first.
This has an attention factor, I think, both with car enthusiasts and people who don't know what it is. They'll look at it and they'll ask, what's that futuristic looking Mercedes you have?
Right, super cool.
Yeah, 7-8 years ago, you probably could get questions like that with the Tesla, but you're not getting those now.
Yeah, everyone knows what these things are. They're like, okay, you bought a $35,000 Model 3. And it's like, no, that's the fast one. Then you have, performance. That's the AMG, that's the Plaid. In a straight line, the Plaid's going to smoke the AMG. And on a track, it's going to smoke the AMG. The AMG, you can go full Sport Plus mode, full ESP off, unlike the baser versions of this car. So you can still slide it around, have fun. I've had it on a back road. It's big, it's heavy. You're not taking either of these really to the track, and both of them aren't really that well suited to it. But for high speed cruising, you can tell the Mercedes, they tuned that thing for the Autobahn.
Yes, so when you're going, it doesn't matter if it's slightly curvy or maybe a straight road. If it's high speed and it's sustained, this car is going to rock it.
It just masks the speed. If you do a lot of driving close to home, especially on the highway, this is by far the clear winner because it's dead quiet, so much more comfortable than the Model S, and they both have really good driver assistance systems. I would say a lot of very different characters, but technically this beat the Model S.
Yeah, we'll have a video and reviews in the Hogback Challenge, but this did really well.
Yeah, really did. And then, you come down to, comfort cruising. I mentioned the EQS is going to be the one you want to get in every day, and you have massaging seats and a great sound system and just a warm feeling interior, whereas the Model S, we haven't shown the inside of it yet actually, is this cold, minimalistic interior that you kind of sit on top of the car. You got to do a hard push. Yep.
Already?
Max doesn't like to push door handles, apparently.
I'm very delicate with technology.
Yeah.
So that infamous yoke, but yeah, that interior that Tesla does is, it's austere, and maybe you like that. Maybe you like Volvo, Rivian style interiors. that's what this is. I mean, and then you have the white interior spec, which do you like, I guess?
I love.
Okay. It's a very clean kind of, I mean, it's like an Apple store basically in here.
Yeah, it's like driving around an Apple store. There you go. It's got a beautiful display, but the EQS makes the Tesla display look tiny somehow.
Yes, but I would argue, I haven't been in either of these cars too long, but I think the Tesla display is just better. It seems more clear and bright.
It is.
In a way, and whereas like this car is presenting all of these displays to you, but in terms of usability, responsiveness, I think the Tesla is a little bit better.
Yeah, totally agree. But the one that I would choose to get in every time and go out to dinner with the family or whatever it is, it's the EQS every single time. It's just a warm feeling interior with beautiful ambient lighting. If I peek in here, you'll see it even in the seats, the ambient lighting. It is by far a superior interior.
Also, driving this at nighttime, I feel like brings that. So, I mean, I wasn't in the EQE even, like the plebeian spec of this. Even that at nighttime is such a special experience when you have all of these lights around you.
Yep.
You're in a Mercedes and in a modern Mercedes, so it's cool. And also, you prefer the driving position of this car.
Yeah, I really hate how I sit in the Model S. The seating position's way too high. I feel like I'm sitting on top of the car rather than in the car, whereas the EQS, I can sit nice and low. I would actually argue the dashboard height is too high in the EQS. You cannot see the hood of the car while you drive it, and it gives you this very odd feeling of just a very high dash. But again, I think for daily driving, EQS wins. For performance, Plaid wins. For value per dollar, Plaid for sure, because this has the same acceleration as the base Model S, roughly.
Yeah, 3.8 seconds is, good.
And I think it's 3.5 in the base Model S. The base Model S might actually even be faster than the spicy Mercedes. The Germans have not figured out how to do cheap speed yet. And I think it's holding them back. Like Taycan, for example, $150,000 gets you a nice 4S. That's like slower than a base Model 3.
It's the German approach to everything. Like that Taycan has a 2-speed transmission. Why? Because it's German.
Right.
Tesla is just like 20,000 RPM. Let's go.
Yeah, yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And so you gotta love it. I mean, in my impression, it's really nice to have both. I think if you already have a Tesla in the garage and you're looking to add something different, this really gives you the German take on electric cars. They spent so much time honing and refining the noise characteristics of the car, the suspension characteristics, things that the Model S can't even come close to matching. But on the other hand, if you're gonna buy your only vehicle, if you just have one, I wouldn't even get the Plaid. I would just get the regular long-range Model S. Even
For
though
the
I got
money,
the Plaid.
that's the car to get, especially now, and we'll talk about this later in the channel with those Tesla price cuts. I mean, for the dollar, it's really hard to go wrong with anything in Tesla's lineup right now.
It's just insane, and you get the best charging network and the best app, and the software is great with the updates, and I don't know. That's my impression. So Max, which is the one you're going to recommend that people buy? Because that's the point of this video. Should you buy the spicy Mercedes or the spicy Tesla? That's 150-ish. That's 115.
I'll give a slightly qualified answer. Let's say this is your first EV and you don't have loyalty to either of these brands. You're just going in cold, clean. Which one do I get? I would say the Tesla, because for the money, it just delivering better specs. And even though it's not as much of a special experience, I feel like to choose this, you want to be in a position where you get Mercedes, maybe you have some history and loyalty with the brand. This car will feel more special to you in that case. So if you are a loyal Mercedes customer, you want to go into the EV future, you can't go wrong with EQS. It is a well put together car, but just going in clean sheet, tabula rasa, blank slate, I would pick the Tesla.
And I actually would say for the majority of people just getting their electric car in this price category, the businessmen spending 150 G's who's going to fly anywhere instead of road tripping, I actually think the EQS is the buy. And I would say probably not the AMG version. I know we're comparing the spicy Benz to the spicy Mercedes, but I would go for the 450 if you don't need all-wheel drive, or the 580, and you get one hell of a well-built car, comfortable car. But there are little things that annoy me, specifically entry, exit, some squeaks. But if you happen to do anything with your car beyond driving to work and back, Model S all day long.
Yeah, so, Plaid and AMG, we're comparing them because they are exciting cars, but I think, realistically with both of these cars, most people, you should probably get the standard version, 580 in this case, or even 450, and just standard Model S here.
Yep, totally agree. Well, I think that's a pretty informative video, Max. Thank you for your insights on that.
Yeah.
I guess you'll be driving the Model S back.
Yeah, thanks for your help, Kyle. I'll try not to send it too hard, but
Thank you.
have fun in that comfortable Mercedes seat.
Oh, I'm going massage seat on, head-up display, big sound system cranking, and this is just one of the most relaxing experiences to drive right here. So see you back at home.
Yeah, well, we'll drive home, but thank you guys so much for watching, and do send us your emails with your buying questions, because we will give you advice. That's the kind of content we want to deliver on this channel. Also, if you have ideas for topics, things you're confused about as a new EV buyer or just someone who's getting to grips with all this stuff, let us know too, because that's what we'll do.
Totally agree. Thanks, Max. See ya.